I was 24 years old when my family decided I no longer existed. The reason wasn't because I committed a crime. It wasn't because I stole money. It wasn't because I hurt anyone. Their reason was much simpler. I married the man they hated. The day I introduced Daniel to my family, I knew they didn't like him. My father barely shook his hand. My older brother spent the entire dinner making sarcastic comments. My mother didn't even try to hide her disapproval. Daniel wasn't rich. He didn't come from a powerful family. He didn't have a fancy degree or a prestigious job title. He was simply a hardworking mechanic who treated me with respect. To me, that was enough. To my family, it was unacceptable. They had spent years imagining I would marry a wealthy businessman and strengthen the family's social status. Instead, I fell in love with a man who fixed engines for a living. The arguments began almost immediately. My mother called Daniel a mistake. My father said I was throwing my future away. My brother openly mocked him every chance he got. For nearly a year, I tried to keep peace within the family. I hoped they would eventually see Daniel the way I did. But things only became worse. Then came the ultimatum. I still remember sitting in my parents' living room when my father looked me straight in the eyes and said, "If you marry him, don't expect to be part of this family anymore." I thought he was bluffing. I thought no parent would seriously abandon their daughter over something like this. I was wrong. 6 months later, Daniel and I got married in a small ceremony attended mostly by friends. My parents didn't come. My brother didn't come. None of my relatives came. The empty seats hurt more than I wanted to admit. But Daniel stood beside me through all of it. He promised we would build our own family. Looking back, that promise changed everything. The first few years were difficult. We lived in a tiny apartment with peeling paint and broken air conditioning. Money was always tight. Some months we barely covered rent. Daniel worked long hours at a repair shop while I worked customer service jobs. There were nights when we shared instant noodles because that was all we could afford. During those years, I occasionally reached out to my family. Birthday messages, holiday greetings, short emails. None received a response. Not one call, not one text, not one invitation. It was as if they had erased me from their lives. 8 years passed, 8 birthdays, 8 Christmases, 8 years without hearing my mother's voice. Eventually, I stopped trying. Instead, Daniel and I focused on our future. One evening, while sitting at our kitchen table, Daniel came up with an idea. He wanted to start a business restoring classic cars. It sounded risky. We had almost no savings. We had no investors. We had no guarantees. But we believed in each other. So we took the chance. At first, it was just the two of us working out of a rented garage. Daniel handled repairs while I managed customers, paperwork, and marketing. We worked 16-hour days. We made mistakes. We failed repeatedly. More than once, we came close to giving up. But slowly, things began to change. Customers started recommending us. Our reputation grew. The business expanded. Within 5 years, we had dozens of employees. By year 7, we had contracts with collectors across the country. By year 8, our company had become one of the most successful restoration businesses in the region. The number that shocked everyone came during a financial review meeting. Our accountant smiled and slid a report across the table. "Congratulations," he said. "Your company valuation just passed $50 million. I stared at the paper in disbelief. Daniel looked just as stunned. For a moment, neither of us spoke. We simply sat there remembering the tiny apartment, the instant noodles, and the years when nobody believed in us. We celebrated quietly that night. We weren't interested in showing off. Then, something unexpected happened. 3 weeks later, on a rainy Tuesday afternoon, someone knocked on our front door. I opened it and nearly dropped my coffee. Standing on my porch was my mother, the woman who hadn't spoken to me in 8 years, the woman who ignored every message I had ever sent. She smiled awkwardly as if no time had passed at all. Then she held up a thick folder. "Hello, sweetheart," she said. My stomach tightened immediately. Something told me this wasn't a family reunion, and when I noticed the stack of papers inside the folder, I realized exactly why she had come. After 8 years of silence, my mother finally wanted something from me. And judging by the size of that folder, she had brought an entire list of demands. My mother stood at my front door holding a thick folder. 8 years had passed since she last spoke to me. 8 years without a call, a text, or even a birthday message. Yet there she was, smiling as if nothing had happened. I invited her inside, and after only a few minutes of small talk, she opened the folder and placed several documents on the table. The reason for her visit became clear immediately. She wanted money. A lot of money. She explained that my father's finances were struggling, my brother's business was failing, and the family needed help. Then she slid a page toward me containing a list of demands. By the time I finished reading, the total exceeded $3 million. I stared at the papers in disbelief. The same family that abandoned me for marrying Daniel now expected me to solve all their problems. Family should help family, my mother said confidently. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. When Daniel and I got married, they treated us like strangers. When we struggled financially, nobody offered help. When we lived in a tiny apartment and worried about paying rent, nobody called. During those difficult years, my family never once asked whether I was okay. Yet now that our company was successful, they suddenly remembered I existed. I looked at my mother and asked a simple question. Why didn't you come 8 years ago? She avoided my eyes. There was no good answer because she knew the truth. She wasn't there because she loved me. She was there because she needed something from me. Just then, Daniel arrived home. I handed him the folder, and after reading the documents, he quietly placed them back on the table. He didn't need to say anything. We both understood exactly what was happening. My mother continued explaining why the family deserved help. The more she spoke, the clearer everything became. She still believed she was entitled to the success we had built through years of sacrifice and hard work. Finally, I interrupted her. When I married Daniel, you told me I was no longer part of this family. She remained silent. For 8 years, you treated me like I didn't exist. Now that we're successful, you want to talk about family. Tears appeared in her eyes, but I continued. Family isn't something you remember when you need money. Family is the people who stay beside you when life is difficult. Then I reached for Daniel's hand. He stayed. He believed in me when nobody else did. My mother looked down at the table. For the first time, she seemed to understand. Slowly, I pushed the folder back toward her. No, I said. Just one word. No anger, no shouting, no revenge, just the truth. She sat there speechless for several seconds before quietly standing up. As she walked toward the door, she whispered, I really did miss you. Maybe she meant it, maybe she didn't, but some choices create consequences that can't be undone. She left without the money, and I never saw that folder again. As the door closed behind her, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Not anger, not sadness, peace. Because I finally understood that the people who truly matter are the ones who stand beside you when you have nothing, not the ones who show up after you've succeeded.